he walked through the storm with soaked shoes, clutching a food bag in one arm and a tiny sleeping baby in the other, unaware that one stranger's quiet phone camera was about to change everything he thought he knew about struggle, love, and what he was truly capable of. Before we dive into the story, make sure to hit subscribe button and like the video, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? Now, let's jump into the story. The rain had been falling since dawn, turning the cracked sidewalks of Portland into dark ribbons that gleamed beneath the streetlights. Mason's shoes were soaked through before the first delivery even left his hands. The baby carrier tugged at his shoulders as he leaned against the faded Honda Civic, checking the next address on his phone. Lily stirred against his chest, a faint squeak muffled by the soft gray blanket wrapped around her. "Just one more," he whispered, though he had 5 more lined up after this one. Mason had been a food delivery driver for 3 months, ever since the plant shut down and the severance check vanished into overdue bills. He had planned to stay home with Lily while his wife, Rachel, finished her medical residency. But Rachel never made it home from that last night shift. The drunk driver's name had been on the police report, but Mason never said it aloud. He only remembered the silence when the phone went dead, and the way Lily's cries filled the entire apartment. He had promised Rachel that Lily would never feel unwanted, never go hungry, never be alone. So now he balanced insulated food bags and diapers in the same trunk, bouncing from door to door through rain and exhaustion. By the time he reached the 5th-floor walk-up on Southeast 12th Street, his legs ached. Lily shifted, blinking awake as he climbed. "Almost done. Peanut," he breathed, kissing her damp hairline. He knocked on the peeling blue door, then stepped back. A woman opened it, middle-aged, hair pinned up, glasses fogging from the steam of something cooking. She paused when she saw him. "Delivery for Anderson?" he said, holding up the bag. Her gaze slid to the sleeping baby curled against his chest. Her eyes softened. "Yes, thank you." Mason smiled politely, handed over the bag, and turned to go. "Wait," she called gently. Is that your baby?" "Yeah," he said, hesitating. "And you're out here working with her?" "Have to," he said. "She likes the motion, helps her nap." She nodded slowly, then closed the door. Mason didn't see the phone she lifted, or the way she filmed his retreating back through the cracked doorframe. By noon, the clouds broke open wider, and wind swept down the avenues like something wild. Lily fussed as he buckled her back in. He handed her the last clean bottle and watched her gulp, her lashes fluttering. "This is worth it," he whispered. "We're gonna be okay." His phone buzzed. Another order, downtown. 32 minutes to deliver. He drove, weaving through traffic, passing polished glass towers that reflected a sky too gray to be real. In the back of his mind, exhaustion hummed. But deeper than that, determination pulsed. Each order meant diapers, meant formula, meant the little nightlight shaped like a fox that Lily adored. Downtown, lunchtime chaos spilled across the sidewalks. Suits hurried past food trucks. Bikes weaved between cabs. Mason parked in a loading zone and jogged toward the lobby of a tech building, cradling the food bag against his chest, while Lily slept on the other side of his chest like a heartbeat. Inside the lobby, a young receptionist blinked when she saw him. "Oh my gosh, is that your baby?" Mason gave a weary grin. "Yup, she's my boss." The receptionist laughed. Honestly adorable. He left before she could say more. Outside, across the street, a college student sat beneath an overhang, earbuds in, watching. His camera phone rose quietly. He followed the delivery driver's path with a slow pan. The soaked jacket, the baby's tiny hand curled against his shirt, the tired eyes, the steady smile. By the time Mason reached the final order, dusk was pressing at the edges of the sky. Lily was awake again, babbling softly, her tiny fingers tangled in the collar of his hoodie. He pressed his cheek to her hair. He didn't know that 2 hours later, a 30-second video clip of him delivering food in the rain while wearing his baby would explode across social media. He didn't know that his phone would buzz itself off the counter while he bathed Lily that night, or that his face would appear on local news broadcasts under the words, "Single Dad Hero." He didn't know that strangers from hundreds of miles away would see him not as exhausted or broken or barely scraping by, but as something else entirely. He only knew Lily needed a warm bottle, and that tomorrow he had to do it all again. When he finally laid her down in the old wooden crib beside his bed, he stayed standing for a long time, watching her chest rise and fall. He could still hear Rachel's laugh in the memory of this room, echoing between the cracked paint and the stacks of baby books. "We're okay," he murmured, and meant it, even if his voice cracked. Outside, rain started again, soft as applause. Mason woke to the glow of his phone lighting the ceiling, a jitter that wouldn't stop. Lily grumbled in her sleep, and he slid out of bed before the buzzing woke her. The screen was a wall of notifications, messages from old coworkers, numbers he didn't know, a link from his neighbor Tyler that read, "Dude, you're everywhere." The clip loaded. In it, he crossed a rain-streaked sidewalk with the food bag in one arm, Lily curled against his chest like a small moon. He lifted the carrier over a puddle and smiled without noticing the camera. 30 seconds. Only the sound of rain. It already had millions of views. He breathed out, unsure whether to smile or be afraid. Fame didn't buy formula. But the comments steadied him. Strangers cheering. People saying they felt seen. A reporter called first. She asked why he worked with his baby. "Because I'm her dad," he said. Soon after, the woman from the 5th floor walk-up called. "This is Eva Anderson," she said. "I filmed from my door. I didn't think it would explode. I'm sorry. I can take it down." "It's okay," he said. "You saw us." Eva exhaled. "Then let me help. I run a community center. We have a daycare slot for 3 weeks because someone moved. It's yours. No charge." Mason sat back. Lily kicked in the crib. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I'll pay when I can." "We'll figure it out later," she said. "Bring Lily this afternoon." The center was bright and scuffed in the honest way of places that hold children. Lily clung to his shirt at first. A caregiver named Janice gave her a soft turtle and hummed. Lily's shoulders loosened. When she reached toward the blocks, the weight in his chest thinned. On his way out, he nearly collided with a guy carrying coffee. "You're the viral dad, right?" the guy laughed. "I'm Caleb. I work upstairs with a startup that does scheduling for delivery drivers. Our founder saw the clip. She wants to talk." "About what?" Mason asked. "A pilot," Caleb said. "Parents balancing routes and naps." They set a time for the next day. Orders picked up. With Lily at the center for a few hours, he worked cleaner and came back lighter. He still brought her along for 2 evening drops so she wouldn't lose their rhythm. The city looked different with help, less sharp around the edges. That evening, Mrs. Flores from downstairs knocked. "Saw you on the news," she said. "My boys grew up on takeout and hope. They ate on paper plates, Lily smearing peas and laughing when the spoon clinked." Later, an email waited from Mara Chen, the startup founder. She offered a contract with a stable hourly base to test their tool. "No strings," she wrote. "If it doesn't help, we part ways. A P.S. Your daughter's Fox nightlight is the same one my mom bought me." The next morning at their office, the air smelled like coffee and whiteboard marker. Mara listened, then she spoke. The app predicts traffic and elevator delays, she said, and builds small windows for caregivers. On test routes, the app nudged him off a blocked bridge, warned about a building with slow security, and stacked 2 orders near the daycare so he could drop in for a 3-minute check on Lily. 3 minutes shouldn't change a day. It did. Afterward, Mara asked, "Does this help?" "It helps me be the dad I promised to be," he said. On the 3rd morning, a black SUV idled near his building. The driver rolled down a window. "Mason Hayes," he called. "I represent a production company. We do a show about everyday heroes. There's a stipend if you'll let us follow you for a day." The money would cover a month of rent. But cameras in Lily's face? He said he'd think about it and walked away. The next day, a letter arrived with no return address. Inside was a cashier's check for $5,000 and a note in neat blue ink. For formula, for gas, for breathing room. No strings. A friend who understands. The bank verified it. He put most toward back rent and set the rest aside. The attention had shadows. Outside a burger place, a man pointed his phone too close to Lily and called her content. Mason stepped between them, voice low and steady. "Please don't film my child." That night, he lay awake, listening to Lily breathe, promising he would guard her peace, first, last, always. A week after the video, he returned to the center to thank Eva. In her small office lined with paper stars, she waved off his gratitude. "You don't owe me thanks," she said, "but I will accept updates." "How's Lily?" "Sleeping better," he said. "I am too." He hesitated. "Whoever sent that check, I want to repay them. I just don't know how." "Maybe the how isn't money," Eva said. "Maybe it's becoming the man you already are, visible enough for someone else to feel brave." He carried that line into the afternoon as sunlight glazed the buildings. For the first time in months, he wasn't surviving. He was shaping the day. He didn't know a test was coming, one that would stretch this thin new hope and ask whether the story people loved could hold when life pressed hard. 3 days later, the daycare called while Mason was halfway across town with a bag of hot pho balanced on his passenger seat. Janice's voice was calm but tight. "Lily's running a fever. Not high yet, but she's drowsy and won't eat." His fingers tightened on the wheel. "I'll be there in 15. He abandoned the order on the counter of a convenience store with an apology note and raced through traffic. The sight of Lily slumped against Janice's shoulder hollowed him out. Her skin was worn and damp. At urgent care, the nurse murmured about an ear infection, nothing severe. Antibiotics and rest. Relief left his hands shaking. He held her as she dozed against him, tiny fingers clutching his shirt. That night, she woke crying every hour. He sang the lullaby Rachel used to hum, rocking on tired feet. He skipped the morning deliveries. Mara messaged to ask why he hadn't logged in, and he told her the truth. She replied, "Stay home. We'll cover you. No guilt. No strings." On the second night, her fever broke. He laid her back in the crib and just watched her chest rise and fall until dawn painted the window pale. Something in him loosened, like a rope untying. But the break from work cracked his finances. 2 missed days meant rent slipping again. He sat at the kitchen table with his ledger, head bowed. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Caleb. "Hey, Mara's pitching the caregiver route system to investors Friday. She wants you there. Tell your story. She thinks it'll land." Public speaking clawed at his nerves, but the thought of letting this chance die clawed worse. The day came sharp, with cold sunlight. He wore his cleanest flannel and borrowed tie from Tyler. The office buzzed with sleek confidence. Mason held Lily on his hip backstage, her hair in a sprig of a ponytail. Mara crouched to smile at her. "Our lucky star," she said softly. When his turn came, his voice trembled at first. Then he talked about nights of microwave noodles, about whispering promises to a newborn who didn't understand words yet, but understood tone, about balancing bottles and brake lights. The room hushed. Investors leaned forward. When he finished, applause rose like sudden wind. Mara squeezed his shoulder. Later, she told him the funding came through. They would expand, hire staff, and she offered him a position, not driving, but shaping the platform with insights from the field. He thought of saying no. He didn't know tech. He knew miles and maps and exhaustion. But he also knew what it felt like to be invisible until a stranger saw you. "Yes," he said quietly. They celebrated in the break room with paper cups of sparkling cider. Lily clapped when everyone cheered. After that, life began to tilt toward steady. Mornings at the daycare, afternoons testing new route tools, evenings walking home through golden light. Lily toddled now, words spilling. Up, truck, data. He hung her drawings on the fridge with chipped magnets. Yet fame lingered like static. Sometimes strangers stopped him for photos. He refused if Lily was present. He wanted her life built on roots, not noise. One evening, near closing, a young man waited by the office door, nervous. "You don't know me," he said. "My name's Jordan. I was on the edge, man. Saw your video. You looked tired, but you kept going. I thought maybe I could too." Mason blinked. "You can," he said simply. Jordan nodded fast, eyes bright. "Just, thanks." Then he left, shoulders straighter. That night, when Lily finally slept, Mason stood by the window, watching the city lights blink. He thought of Jordan, of Eva, of Mara, of Rachel. Grief still lived inside him, quiet but present. Yet it wasn't steering anymore. Then came the letter from the landlord. The building was being sold. Tenants had 60 days to vacate. Mason sat on the stairs, letter in hand, world tilting. He couldn't afford deposits, movers, time off. Lily toddled over, climbing onto his knee, babbling nonsense that sounded like music. He called Eva. "We'll find something," she said firmly. "Don't panic yet." But panic whispered anyway. The next week blurred, packing in scraps between shifts, touring dingy apartments that smelled of mildew. Every door slammed on single income and delivery driver. He didn't tell Mara. Pride cinched his mouth shut. Then one afternoon, Lily wandered into the daycare's play yard, clutching a plastic truck, and a voice behind him said, "Looking for a place?" A woman in paint-splattered overalls leaned on the fence. "Name's Cassie. I own the duplex on Maple. My brother showed me your video when it first blew up. I've got the upstairs unit. It's not much, but the rent's low and the neighbors are quiet." His throat tightened. "Why offer it to us?" She shrugged. "Because some people build walls when they get ahead. I'd rather build ladders." The apartment was small, sunlit, with creaky floors and a window box of wilted herbs. It was perfect. They moved in 2 days later, Lily chasing dust motes like fireflies. That first night there, he tucked her into the old crib by the new window and sat on the bare floor watching moonlight stripe the walls. The fear hadn't vanished, but it no longer owned the room. He didn't know the last act of this story was already gathering like a distant storm, quiet and unseen, ready to test every fragile thing he had rebuilt. 2 weeks after moving into the little duplex, Mason began to notice something he hadn't felt in years. Silence that didn't press. Mornings were gentle now, sunlight through thin curtains, the smell of toast, Lily's sleepy curls against his cheek. The viral noise had mostly faded, leaving a quieter kind of attention. Neighbors nodded, smiled. Sometimes kids on bikes waved as they passed the stoop. He was learning to breathe without bracing. Mara called one morning, excitement tumbling through her voice. "We're ready to launch the caregiver root tool citywide," she said. "I want you on the stage when we unveil it." The thought of a stage knotted his stomach, but he thought of what this could mean for other parents like him, exhausted and unseen. "I'll do it," he said. They held the event in a refurbished warehouse strung with warm lights. Rows of chairs, cameras, the low hum of anticipation. Mason stood backstage with Lily on his hip, her small hand clutching the edge of his shirt. She was almost walking now, her steps still wobbly but determined. Mara introduced him as the heart behind their mission. The crowd applauded. He walked out, pulse loud in his ears. He didn't read from notes. He spoke simply, about nights he whispered promises into the dark, about carrying a baby and a day's worth of fear through traffic, about the way hope can be a job you clock into. When he finished, the applause was long and real. Mara hugged him, and Lily clapped along, delighted. Offers followed, interviews, partnerships, even book deals. He declined most of them gently. He didn't want fame. He wanted steadiness, time to watch his daughter discover the world. For a while, life settled into something almost soft. Mornings at the daycare, afternoons refining the app, evenings on the stoop with Lily, pointing at passing clouds. She said her first sentence there one golden dusk, "I love you, Dada." He didn't cry, not exactly. He just went very still, like the world had tilted to show its truest shape. Then one Friday evening, as they returned from the park, a man waited by the steps. Suit jacket, clipped hair, a clipboard balanced against his knee. "Mason Hayes?" he asked. "Yeah. I'm with foster services. Your wife's mother filed for temporary custody of Lily." Mason's breath caught. "Rachel's mother? She hasn't spoken to us in years. She claims your schedule is unstable." She cited the viral video, public exposure, concerns about safety. The words fell like stones. Lily toddled past, chasing a leaf. "There's a hearing in 10 days, the man said, handing him a packet. "She's requested emergency evaluation." After he left, the quiet felt sharp-edged. Mason sat on the floor while Lily stacked blocks, trying to keep his hands steady. He hadn't seen Margaret in 4 years, not since the funeral. She'd called him reckless then, said he wouldn't last a month as a single father. He had lasted every day since. Eva came over that night. She read the papers silently, lips pressed thin. "We'll get you a lawyer," she said. "I can't afford. We'll find a way." Mara helped too, connecting him with a legal aid group. Still, the days blurred into dread. Lily sensed it, clinging tighter, watching him with wide eyes. The hearing came in a small courthouse that smelled of old carpet. Margaret sat stiff-backed, pearls at her throat, grief worn into her expression like a scar. The judge listened as her lawyer painted him as chaotic, unstable, exposing Lily to strangers. Mason sat still, hands clasped, heart pounding. When his turn came, his voice shook, but he told the truth. He spoke about nights on cold sidewalks, about showing up when he was bone-tired, about building something steady out of nothing. Mara testified about his work, Eva about his care. Janice from the daycare described Lily's laughter, her progress, her safety. When it ended, the judge leaned back, silent for a long moment. Then she said, "Being seen by the world doesn't mean being unsafe. This child is thriving." Petition denied. Margaret's shoulders slumped, as if something inside her cracked. Outside the courthouse, she stood by the steps, looking smaller than he remembered. "She looks like Rachel," she said softly. "She laughs like her," he replied. Margaret blinked, then nodded once, and walked away without another word. That night, Lily fell asleep on his chest as rain ticked the windows. The fight had drained him. But beneath the exhaustion was something stronger than relief. It was knowing he had been tested and chosen her again and again, and that had been enough. Weeks passed. The app launched across the state. Mason was offered a permanent role leading outreach for delivery parents. He said yes, not for the title, but for the chance to make sure no one else had to choose between earning rent and rocking a sick baby. They celebrated in the tiny kitchen of the duplex with takeout and paper lanterns. Lily danced barefoot, hair wild, laughter echoing against the walls. Later, after she slept, Mason stood by the window again. The city stretched quiet and lit below. He thought of that first rainy night when everything felt like falling, and how it had led here. This stillness, this small life built on love, stubborn enough to keep showing up. He whispered, "We made it," and for the first time, believed it was true. And that's how one exhausted delivery dad, carrying his baby through the rain, proved that love can build a future stronger than any storm. If this story moved you, smash that like button, subscribe for more powerful stories, and share this with someone who needs a spark of hope today.